Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to ask you, where are you making it harder for yourself? Harder than it needs to be. And I think a lot of people do that when you just think of, are you sometimes a person that procrastinates, that has the feeling like life is very hard, that feels like looking at other people and thinking, well, they have it easier, or they're so lucky, or they can make it, but I don't know if I can. And the question that I ask myself when this comes up for me is, where am I making it hard for myself? Harder than it needs to be. And why do I turn this question inward? Because when we, look at other people and feel like they have it all together, or they are already there, whatever there is for you, or they have something that you want to achieve, or you're feeling like you're behind, or they are ahead of you, or something like that. When we feel like that, it's a little bit like life mirrors us back what we want, and where we are not aligned with ourselves yet. It doesn't mean we cannot have it, whatever that is that you wish for yourself. May it be a circumstance, a job, a partner, a friendship group, understanding who you are, your purpose, peace, safety, whatever it is for you. When we see that somebody has what we want, the question is, where are we not allowing that for ourselves? Yeah. So interesting things to look at that I had to ask myself is, I'm helping everybody else. When I was still working in the tech world, in the startup world, and I was creating digital products for people, beautiful digital products, not just me, obviously, with the whole team, but looking back, I was always feeling back then like we're creating these beautiful things, these beautiful products and businesses for others. Why am I not able to do that for myself? And, it has to do with prioritizing your own needs, not in an egocentrical way, or not in a push away others for what I need kind of way, but my value is just as valid as everybody else's. And sometimes we distract ourselves, not just because we need to make a living and earn money for rent or whatever, but sometimes we distract ourselves by helping others or putting others first, because we are not used to prioritize ourselves, or we haven't learned that we in fact can value ourselves and prioritize ourselves. Yeah, because maybe you grew up in a way where you had to be an adult early in life and take responsibility for other people early in life. And if that is so, we are not really having the time and the space, and not just the time and the space, but also the peace and the calm to ask ourselves these questions like, what do I like? What am I curious about? Who do I want to be? And dream about it, right? Because when you had to maybe be a caretaker for a parent or another sibling, or whatever your circumstance was growing up, sometimes that can put pressure on us to meet the expectations of others. And that can also happen not just with parents, caretakers, teachers, or peers. It can also happen if you maybe had several older siblings, and you see them doing stuff and you feel like, now the pressure is on me to succeed as well. And then we always look on, if we have learned to look on the outside to how we should behave, that we should fit in some way. And, for me, it was often that from one of my parents, I felt like they didn't have patience with me, with anything really, but I projected it onto me and felt like, oh, they don't have patience for me, and they don't get me, they don't understand me, they don't see me, I'm not doing it fast enough, I'm not enough. No matter what I try, I felt like I couldn't meet the expectations. So I felt often like, what's the use in trying if I will fail anyway, if I cannot meet the expectations anyway. And when we grow up, we may be, having that ingrained. We may start feeling afraid of going our own path, developing our own direction, opinion, style, not just with clothing, but with how we speak, how we dress, how we decorate our house, how we make our website, how we express ourselves in any and every way, how we lead our business, how we surround ourselves and communicate with others. So often subconsciously, often without even noticing, we try to adapt as much as possible to the world so that this happens, so that the feeling of not being accepted and not being understood or valued doesn't reappear with other people, right? So as children, we develop this coping mechanism in order to feel safe and to kind of, get our needs met by meeting somebody else's needs. And then when we grow up and become adults, this mechanism suddenly becomes limiting to us. It limits our natural expression, our authenticity, and it makes us feel like pressed into a box, afraid to break out of the box, because although the box may feel uncomfortable, it has given us a feeling of familiarity and safety for so long that now we feel that if we break out of the box, we don't know what's going to happen. And that uncertainty triggers your fear of failure from childhood, your fear of not being perfect, possibly. Everybody has a different core wound on that. But I just wanted to give you some options. There may be even something completely different that comes up for you right now. Yeah, a different fear that I'm mentioning. But by just pointing you towards that, I hope that you can bring awareness to what it may be. Yeah, this may trigger your fear of failure, your fear of not being perfect or appropriate, your fear of being too much or not enough, your fear of being rejected or neglected if you just be yourself, which is not just a just, obviously, right? Which I've been talking about in many videos before. And so when this trigger comes up, often that brings emotions with itself. And the emotions that it brings up, sometimes we're not equipped to know how to process and allow the emotions to come over us. So what do? Our coping mechanism steps in. That often we have developed in childhood as well. So it could be that you want to eat. It could be that you want to distract, avoid, or suppress your emotions in any way. That could be anything. Like I always say, it could be through shopping, sex, drugs, like media, scrolling, like anything and everything. And that is just a way of how you used to deal with it. And even if in childhood your first coping mechanism wasn't alcohol or drugs or whatever, maybe there was something else like food or watching TV or sometimes even self-harming or whatever it was. And that can change as an adult and move into drugs or sex or whatever. And I just want to bring awareness to that, because often the thing that we're addicted to is not the issue. The addiction is a coping mechanism to create safety or a perceived sense of safety within you, because you haven't learned that, emotions are coming up. Maybe you haven't develop the awareness that, oh, I have emotions come up because I was triggered. Sorry, there's a plane. Yeah. So often we don't have the awareness of, oh, I'm feeling triggered right now. I have emotions come up. Oh, let me sit with the emotions and notice, what am I feeling right now? Yeah. Often we don't have the awareness and the capacity yet, I'm saying that on purpose, yet, to sit ourselves down, or not just sitting, but like be with our emotions, feel it through, and have that realization on the other side of, oh, what is happening right now? Why am I triggered? Oh, it relates to back then, to that wound. But we can develop the capacity to bring awareness to triggers and emotions. And the easiest thing you can do is already writing down, maybe journal right now if you have the time and space and the paper and the pen, or even your phone. What is your, often we have one or two primary coping mechanisms. What do you go usually to when you feel overwhelmed, afraid, out of control in some way? What is the first thing that you would do? And then also ask yourself, okay, once I write down what it is for me, it used to be, it's gotten way better, but it still is, snacking, food, and media, like, watching something. And I'm way more aware now of the whole system, the whole thing, but obviously I'm a human too. Sometimes I fall back, and that's okay, because I notice that when I have this, really it feels something like I need that now, like I cannot get myself away from it now. And when I notice this coming up, I know, wait, let me stop here. I am feeling dysregulated. So that's a word that I want you to understand, so let me explain. When we feel triggered and we're not trained or used to open up to our emotions that we feel when we feel triggered, then we often go into automatically, without even noticing that we're doing it, into that coping mechanism, whatever it may be, drinking or scrolling or whatever. But when we start to enter that coping mechanism and we feel that sort of neediness in our body, this craving, that we feel like, okay, I need that now, I cannot stop myself from doing it, then this can be a sign for you that you're being dysregulated. And what does dysregulated mean? Dysregulated means simply that you're not in a balanced state in your nervous system, that your body is feeling out of balance and wants to try and bring you back into balance by using a coping mechanism. But maybe you can understand that using that coping mechanism, it's totally fine if it happens, so no shame, no judgment on that. It's a journey of learning to move away from it and replace it with a healthy way of processing a situation and an experience and your emotions of that come up from that. But it takes time. So, I had a client last week that said to me, I was so overwhelmed, and so I just, shut down and started watching TV and ordered McDonald's. And I'm like, and the person was judging themselves so harshly about it. But what I said was, you know what? I think it was great that you noticed that you shut down, that you felt dysregulated. And it's okay that you did it anyway, because change happens step by step by step. If you force change without it coming naturally because it's your natural choice, then it's often, not always, but often not sustainable change. Yeah, and we will feel confronted with making the right choice for ourselves again and again until we do. Until we feel ready and safe enough to make that choice. Yeah. So already noticing that, oh, I'm numbing myself right now. Okay, I've noticed that. I'm gonna do it anyway, but I've noticed that. All right, and that may happen a few times, and then you come to the next step where you are like, I really want to numb myself right now, but you know what, I'm just gonna sit down, take a few deep breaths and see if I can name the feeling that I'm feeling right now. And maybe go even the next step after naming the feeling. Maybe I cannot name the feeling, and that's okay too. And then I just sit and feel the feeling. And that may feel uncomfortable. Yeah, it takes also practice to allow yourself to feel your feelings. And when you feel the feeling or not, maybe you can even sense, where is the feeling located in my body? Yeah, and maybe you can send a few deep breaths into that part of your body. And then with training, with practice, you're going to be able to sit longer with that feeling. Maybe feel it through and realize, oh, what do I really need right now? Yeah? So that's a question you can ask yourself. What do I really need right now? Maybe it's not scrolling or the cookie or buying that t-shirt online. Maybe it's actually calling a friend. Or if you're always calling somebody to help you, maybe asking yourself, for what do I want, without getting the consent from other people, the validation from other people. Yeah. Sometimes the opposite is the medicine. Sometimes when we always ask everybody for their opinion before we trust our own opinion, then we need to not call everybody, but ask ourselves, am I deciding this because it will be validated by others and others will like me for it? Or am I deciding this for me, no matter how others respond to my decision? Yeah, it's very powerful. So when you feel dysregulated, let's go one more time back to that. Also something you can journal. When you feel dysregulated, do you freeze? So you kind of like unable to do anything and you just shut down. Maybe that means scrolling for hours on the couch, watching a movie for hours and eating chips, something like that. Not answering any message, any phone for days or whatever. Just disappearing in a way. And again, no shame. I just want you to start becoming aware of your own patterns. Yeah, because it's powerful. The second thing, if it's not the freeze response, maybe it's the fawn response, and you're trying to take over responsibility for everything and everybody, and you say no problem, and you're saying yes to solving everybody's problem, and you don't say no and draw your boundaries. So then it may be a good idea to notice that and ask yourself, oh, am I overwhelmed? What overwhelms me right now? Where do I need to draw a boundary right now? What do I need to say no to? Yeah, what do I need to do for myself right now? What do I need to voice or communicate? To be honest about something, yeah? So we have freeze, we have fawn, and then we also have fight. So maybe I want to defend myself, argue, just push through that I'm right, or, like even fight physically. So then I need to ask myself, why do I need to be right so much? Why do I need to, defend myself so much? Is that the most authentic way to respond to the situation? Or is there another way that feels a little softer, a little more aligned? So we have fawn, freeze, fight, and we also have flight. And flight is when you also run away from the situation. You just disappear. You don't answer. You leave the room without any communication. You hide. You run away, like things like that. And then you need to ask yourself, what am I afraid to face? Yeah, what am I not wanting to be confronted with? Yeah, where do I feel not capable of confrontation? What is behind that? So that's really powerful to ask yourself as well. Okay, let's all take a deep breath together. And I would really recommend you to try this practice of noticing when you are not trusting yourself, when you are holding back, when you are not saying no, or when you are saying no maybe too much. when you're rigid. And yeah, it's really good to start by these little steps that I mentioned. So if you didn't write them down, go back in the video, write them down, and just start taking tiny actions on that. You know, sometimes people comment on the video, this is great wisdom, but it's really hard to implement. And I respect that it's hard for you, or it appears to be hard for you. And I also want to say that, you know, if we decide something is hard, and that comes back full circle to the start of the video, if we decide that something is hard, it will be hard. We make it harder for ourselves. But maybe you can ask yourself, how can I break down the steps into, you know, bite-sized little steps, smaller steps, so that I can, you know, make progress. And this is what it's all about. If we feel that something is hard, we have an assumption about something. If it's hard for us, maybe it's not hard for others, but it's hard for us. By saying that, we are already saying that life is harder for us. If we have this belief, it obviously limits us from taking action. So it's really important to investigate this belief and ask yourself questions about it, like, why do I believe that life is harder for me? Where is the evidence? And is it only evidence because this is what I have been telling myself my whole life? And how could I make life easier for myself? What are the small things? And again, journal this out. Where am I making life hard for myself? Maybe already by assuming that this belief is true always. Yeah? And how can I make it easier for myself? Maybe, for example, breaking down this video into small steps, like I actually shared with you. So you could just start by the first step, you know, writing down what are my coping mechanisms, what is my usual mechanism, what is my usual nervous system response, and then just starting by in your life, when you're living your life, starting to notice, oh, I was triggered today. Maybe you don't notice it in the moment, and that's totally okay. But maybe you notice it at night in bed when you reflect on the day. Oh, I was triggered today. What did I feel? And then you can Google the wheel of emotions, print it out, put it next to your mirror or whatever, and just learn naming your emotions. Every day, in the morning or in the evening or whenever in the day, you just start naming your emotions. First step. You can do that for a week, for a month, for 3 months, for however long. Yeah. And then the next step is, all right, now I notice when I'm being triggered and what I feel. I know how to name the emotion. So next step, what is my nervous system response? Do I fight? Do I flight? Do I freeze? Do I fawn? And in what situations do I feel triggered? Yeah? So you can write this down like a list so you have it always. And then you can work down the list whenever you feel like you mastered one step. And then the next thing is, okay, now that I know my nervous system response as well, what is the next step? The next step could be, okay, whenever I notice I'm triggered, even if it's the day after or 2 days after, can I not judge myself for being triggered? Yeah. And when I notice my nervous system response, you know, prepare for it. Can I write down, for example, I respond like this, you know, I always want to go shopping or whatever. What could be an alternative that makes me feel good, that doesn't feel like work, that actually I want to do instead of scrolling or shopping or whatever? What could be something nice that I can do for myself that I actually want to do, that feels good for me? Yeah, instead of the other response. So that's it. Yeah, start by that. And if you have questions, please put them in the comments below. I would love to answer you. If you have any requests for videos, put it below. I'm here for you. So yeah, I just want you to feel good in your life and take steps towards your fulfillment and your dreams. Okay? Because I know how it can feel like to feel disempowered or unsure and doubtful and a little lost. So that's okay. Just start by accepting where you're at and we go from there. Yeah, you're not alone. You've got this. And if you want to share with us below where you're at, go for it. I'm sure it's going to help other people to feel less alone. Alrighty, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody that could need to hear that. Leave a subscription if you haven't yet. That helps the channel to grow and help more people. And I see you tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. Ciao.